So tonight we're going to do things a little differently because first I'm going to give a talk and then lead the meditation. And we'll end a little early tonight because we have a bit of a special program afterwards. So as you know, I think most of you know, this is my last talk here. I am retiring as a teacher. I'm 82. I'm a senior. Thank you. Yes, I made it this long. So it is time. I've taught for quite a while, and 20 years actually here. And I recognize this is the last phase of my life going into it. Have no idea how long it will be, but it's something to move into with a lot of heart, I guess you'd say. And with heart, I've been here for so many years. In fact, I will say that just recently I found on my my hard drive some talks that I gave between 2010 and 2012. This is just, we had just begun recording our talks. Before that, I mean, we were meeting before that, but we were just began recording our talks. And I haven't looked at them for years. And so I opened it up and I found that there were some titles in there. One was Being Nobody, Going Nowhere. And another title was Grackles, Rocks, and No Self. How I got all that together is a good question, but I did. But what it reminded me of is what I've really been focusing on for a long time. And more recently, it's been my soul focus. And that has been the pure awareness and its impact in our daily life. It is the source. And it is from that everything we do stems, even when we're not aware of it. So I've been talking about it, explaining as best I can, and trying to convey that to everyone. You know, I'll say we have at least one person here tonight who is new, and maybe online too. You know, I didn't actually say hello to people online and would like to do that and say hi to everybody. And in fact, if there is anyone new, you are so welcome tonight. We're pleased to have you here virtually. So I'd like to say, you know, you don't have to have meditated for years to relate to these teachings. And I'm talking about pure awareness, fundamental nature, whatever you want to call it. And by the way, there are many things. I'll just start out. As we say, there are many different names for this. Pure awareness, fundamental nature, being, Buddha nature, God, love. All of them are simply different names for the same thing. So you don't have to have meditated for years and years to relate to these teachings. You can walk in for the first time and there can be something within your heart or something within that leaps up to meet them and says, yes. You don't have to understand it, but there's a way that something within you says a yes, even if the mind hasn't caught up with it yet, and it never will because the mind can't. But anyway, that's another story. So some people actually are here for years, and eventually they begin to hear it, and then there's the yes. And then finally, there's some people who may come first time or often, and they actually don't get it. And it's like, what the heck is she talking about? And you know, all is well. It doesn't make a difference. You're here, and we're so happy all of us can be together. And whether you get it or don't, all is well. And my invitation is, please just relax with this tonight, because no surprise, that's what I'm going to be talking about again tonight. I gave a lot of thought, I mean, a really lot of thought, to what would I say if this last talk. And I wrote pages, I mean, pages and pages and pages, because there's so many things I wanted to say. I finally boiled it down to two things, and that is waking and returning. And that's going to be our topic tonight. So I'm going to begin with a story, waking. I'm going to begin with a story. Some months ago, at the end of a retreat that I was attending, a woman told a story that I want to retell you now. This, by the way, it was a meditation retreat, but not an entirely silent retreat. So she said that she'd been talking with a friend of hers who was at the retreat, and she was telling him, and he is a very mature practitioner. He has a lot of insight. And she said she was telling him about her problems, that she was going through a really hard time, some major issues to face, a lot of decisions that she had to face. And she was very agitated telling him this. And so she told him, now this was her story. She told him, and he looked at her and he said, "How are you?" And she thought, and she told us this, she thought, what? He didn't hear me? He didn't hear what I was just saying? I'm terrible. I'm just awful. So she kind of said, "I just told you how I am. I'm really in a very bad way." And she went on a little bit about that. He looked at her. And again, he said, "How are you?" And she was stunned. She'd really been expecting someone to comfort her, to understand, to commiserate. And here he was, not at all doing that. And there he was, looking at her and expecting an answer. And as she looked back at him, something inside of her clicked, something shifted. And she said, "Oh, you mean that one? How are you? Oh, you mean that one?" And she told us about that. This was an awakening. She had awakened to her fundamental nature right there. Now, when she said this, by the way, she told the story to the group, she was radiant. And I would like to say that I think there's a big misunderstanding. It's so easy to misunderstand and think, well, awakening and all of that, we are going into like wall-to-wall, non-ordinary states of consciousness and bliss and love and elevation and all of that. Or it's going to be absolute silence. And in fact, it's not so. Neither the wall-to-wall, non-ordinary states of consciousness, nor silence, which, by the way, is not exactly our ordinary state of mind either. What the awakening essentially is awakening to your essential nature. What has been there and is there all along. It never leaves. It's always there. The non-ordinary states of consciousness may be a byproduct. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. They're not essential. What is something that is so simple and quiet and forever with you. It's unlimited. It is open. It has no objects. And because it has no objects, it has no separation. There is no separation there. There's no conflict. And when there's no conflict, it means we all just experience, it's just true. We're all experiencing and sharing the same thing. Shared being. Shared being. I think we can say that this fundamental nature is innate to all of us. Nobody's missing it. It is what you are. And it is irreducible. It's always there, irreducible. It is the nature of the newborn. It's what a newborn is. Before all of the experiences are added onto it. Just pure awareness. Now, over time, of course, what we do is we develop ego. We develop all kinds of experience. We develop, our senses develop, we develop likes, we develop dislikes, and the whole thing that goes with being an individual. We have our joys, our fears, our likes, our dislikes, and our minds become busy with that. During the day, our daily attention is on objects, on what we need to be doing, quite rightly. I mean, we need to do this. It's not like we don't. So even though we lose touch with our fundamental nature often as we grow, and we do, it never leaves. It is always there. You can't lose it. We lose touch with it. You can't lose it. It doesn't disappear. And even at the end of our days, and even when we're in mental decline, it's there, as it always was, since you were a newborn. So I just told you a story about this woman at the retreat. And I'll say, after this awakening to her fundamental nature, did her problems disappear? No. Every one of them was still there. Every one of them needed to be worked with. She had to deal with all of them. What was different is she now held them in a different way. I haven't talked to her since she told that story, but I know that this was true. It can't not be true because she had woken up to what she truly was. That means that she holds life and what is encountered in life in a different way. How to explain it? Well, words can describe it, but not evoke it. I've already tried to describe it at the very beginning. So, good. That's why I think the Buddha, in his great wisdom, said, Ehe Pasako, come and find it true for yourself. Because he knew you can't really explain it. So we'll just leave it at that. He wanted us to find it true in our daily life and discover its impact, the impact of that awakening. And that's, I hope, it's the same invitation for every one of us here, to discover it, find it true for yourself. And that's ultimately what our practice brings us to. So I want to turn now and talk about the second topic that I'm going to be discussing tonight, and that is returning. I've been in Buddhist practice now for 40 years. That's one heck of a long time. I was astonished when I tried to add it all up. That's a long time. The first 10 years I was in Zen training. And then the last 30, I've been in our tradition inside Theravada, first in St. Louis, and then I lived in a monastery, and then here in Charlottesville. And in all that time, I'll have to say, I don't remember any text or any teacher ever talk about the practice of returning. In the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, it is discussed. And it's also discussed in some non-Buddhist traditions. I think that as our practice matures, as we mature in our spiritual understanding, returning becomes the most important practice. And I'm going to explain what it is in a minute, but I want to just preface it by saying it's a practice I so deeply have wished so often that I'd heard about years ago. I wish I'd heard about it years and years ago. I didn't. So tonight I'll share it with you. And first of all, talk about the word itself, return. Because return, means back or again, and of course, to turn back again. So in this context, the practice of returning, it means that a practitioner for the moment, momentarily, turns away from perceiving objects and turns again to the subject, fundamental nature. The subject, fundamental nature. I'm going to explain what that kind of intense sentence means. When I say the subject, that is the one who experiences thoughts, emotions, perceptions. When I'm saying in this sentence, objects are that which we daily experience. We all know external objects. Trees, rocks, your socks on the floor, a pew here, whatever. Those are objects. Those are external objects. And then there are internal objects. The internal objects are our thoughts, our emotions, our sensations, and what we perceive. Now, this, I think, can be surprising. I don't think we usually think about these things as internal objects. But once, and I think most of us have had the insight that our thoughts come, they go, and we're still here. Emotions come and go, and we're still here. Perceptions come and go. Sensations come and go. All of it, and we're still here. What is it that's still here? It's always coming and going. So there is a great image, and I'll have to say, this is an ancient Buddhist image. I didn't make it up. Someone throws a stick, and a dog chases it. They throw again, dog chases it again, and again, and again. And the analogy is, it's the same with us. We're always busy chasing the stick of thoughts, emotions, perceptions, the internal objects. The mind is always going to generate sticks. It's always going to throw sticks. People, situations, oneself, over and over. And the same thing with emotions and sensations. So that means we can go through our life and forever chase the sticks. Now, please understand, I'm not suggesting we shouldn't try to get some understanding of these sticks. We absolutely need to, right? If we're going to live a life, we need to know what this is all about. And the beauty of our practice is that we begin to know, we practice with cultivating skill, we practice with cultivating wisdom and compassion, so that we can go through our life in these ways and not just mindlessly chase sticks. And yet at the same time, it's not the full story. It isn't the full all of reality. The other part, and I hate to be so simplistic about it, the other part of reality, and that's a ridiculous statement, but the other part of reality is turning back and discovering the thrower, the source of that which has thrown the sticks. Rather than chasing the stick, it's taking a look at what is it that has thrown the stick. Does that make sense? Does that? A few people nod yes, but a lot of people haven't done anything. I hope it makes some sense. So, turning back. This is what we do when we practice in this way with returning. We notice the sticks, and then, just momentarily, we turn around and notice the source, that which threw the sticks. Yes. This is returning, and we're going to have a meditation in a few minutes, and I will lead us in that practice. I'll lead us in the practice. But right now, I'd like to say everybody has experienced pure awareness, fundamental nature. You may not have recognized it, but you've experienced it because, as I said, that's you. That's what you are. It's there always. So the next step then is to awaken to it for what it is, as the woman in the story I just told you did. This is returning, which we'll be practicing, is a powerful practice. And for those of us who feel we've never really experienced our fundamental nature, it's a practice that supports us, can help us along the way. But especially tonight, I wanted to say this and point out that returning is a practice for people who have already experienced fundamental nature. There are several people here, many of us I know, and many that I maybe even don't know, who have experienced their fundamental nature. And I want to point out, for all of us, anyone who has experienced it, returning back again and again to the truth of your fundamental nature is important. And we can all do it. It sounds like, oh my gosh, how in the world would I ever return? Try. And we're going to start tonight. You can do it. It's a way that you need to find, each of us, ourselves. We can talk about it, but only each of us can do it. And it's right there to be done. Let me put it that way. So this is a key practice. The reason why it feels difficult to return is because we have developed the habit of chasing the sticks. We have developed a habit of ignoring the thrower. That's just human, not just us. This is human. It's what's happened throughout the ages. There's a deeply ingrained habit of the mind focusing on the objects, internal and external. So it is not automatic to return and to do it to your fundamental nature. And to do it takes intention, practice, and a lot of patience. Ultimately, I will just say, clue you in, that the idea is to remain in touch with your fundamental nature. Now, honestly, I don't know anybody who's in touch all the time with their fundamental nature, but that's the point. And while practicing this returning will feel difficult, not only should we know we can do it, but it gets easier the more you do it. It becomes more kind of automatic. Returning can happen in a nanosecond. It's no big deal. It's just about remembering to do that. So this is the journey to keep returning, going back to the knowing of what you already are. So once you've seen it, that's a critical point. But returning to what you've seen, to what you know, yes, it's a sacred journey. So, in conclusion, I want to end by commenting on the many crises that all of us face, this globe faces these days. And I know all of us were anguished by these multiple crises: the brutality, the war, the conflict, the pillaging of the Earth's resources, the expanding impact of climate, biodiversity being lost. I mean, this sits heavily in all of our hearts. And I know that we all really are agonizing and wondering and taking action as we feel we can to help alleviate it, however small that may be. And every one of those actions is important. And I would like to say that there is something more. And I'll just say it. I think the something more is the most important thing we can do. And that is to open to the deep Dharma, to open to that which we truly are. Over the ages, human civilization changed vastly. over the ages. But one thing has never changed, and that is the belief that we are separate beings, and that we're separate beings living amongst other separate beings. There's a me and there's a you. There's an us and there's a them. And so it goes. And soon as there's a me and a you, or an us and a them, then there are needs, and there are fears, and there are wants, and there's conflict, and that there is all of the heritage that we are facing, that is so drastically facing us these days. Is it not the accumulation of our inability to see ourselves as embedded, as part of all that which is living? I don't mean just intellectually, but to really see it, experience it. I think there's an urgent need for us to awaken to our embeddedness to the whole, to experience the reality of our shared being with all other beings on the planet, not only human beings, but other beings, with the planet itself. That shared being is what underlies the incredible, magnificent diversity that exists on this planet. There's something more fundamental. There's all the beautiful diversity, and fundamentally, it's fundamental awareness, pure awareness. We share that, all of us. We are like waves on the ocean, as you've heard many times from me, maybe others as well. Maybe Pat has said that, I don't know. But we are like waves in the ocean. We see ourselves as separate individual, but take a look at a wave, as we've all done at some point. It's there and it's gone. What is its identity? That's an analogy, of course. Waves in the ocean of pure being. So suggesting this, I want to be really clear and say, I'm not suggesting, I'm not saying that there would be no problems if everybody did this, or that everybody would stand around and hold hands and sing Kumbaya or something like that. That's not it. It wouldn't happen like that. And in fact, let's face it, it's very unlikely that all human beings are going to, at least anytime soon, reach this place where we all experience the shared being, the fact that we're embedded in part of a whole. And certainly not anytime soon. Even those who have experienced it are going to be perfect. I don't think anybody is perfect. So with all those disclaimers, not going to happen soon to all of the human race. But I think that we as practitioners of the Dharma, can turn to it. Just as we engage in social activism or environmentally sustainable actions, just as we do that, and they are heartfelt offerings, I think that we can also open to the deep Dharma as a heartfelt offering. Opening to it because, first of all, it's true, because it's drastically needed, and because I think our souls yearn for it and love it. So that is what I would like to say about returning and practicing with the deep Dharma. So just to boil it down, a first step then I'm suggesting is just opening to the deep Dharma, realizing it's there. Hear about fundamental nature as I'm talking about it, for example, this night. And some others do, but I know that Pat has, some others have. You hear about it. A second step is to practice, so that you, if you feel you haven't experienced it, Find out, look more deeply. It's there for you. Find it. And that's where this practice of returning can be helpful. And thirdly, aligning our actions in daily life. Aligning our actions in daily life. Awakening, returning, and aligning. The different words are used in the Buddhist tradition. Finally, this is the ultimate message. So, a lifetime journey. So I thank you for listening and would like to say that right now, because we are having a bit of a different evening, we're going to end at 8 at that clock is not 8:15. Yes, I said, what happened all that time? It hasn't been moved yet for Central Standard Time, daylight saving time. So, okay, we're ending at 8:15. We're going to have a special program. So we're not going to take a break right now. If you would like to or need a bio break, please feel free. But we will kind of just go right into our meditation now. And at the end, as I said, we will have a special program and those delicious cookies that are over there that are so enticing. So let us start now with a meditation. And I'm going to guide this. The focus is going to be on returning to fundamental nature. The guidelines are simple. And it's something that you can easily do on your own. You can practice it formally as we're about to do. And you can also practice it informally during the day, taking only a second or two. It doesn't take a lot of time. We're going to start right now with a mindfulness practice. That's what we'll start with it for a few minutes, and then we'll transition into the practice of returning. And if at any time during the meditation you would like to go back to mindfulness, or you would like to just stay there to start with, you're welcome to do that. You don't have to, no compulsion. All right. So allowing yourself to relax a moment. Closing your eyes. And taking a deep breath, a long, slow inhale, allowing it to go deep in the belly and out and exhale as well, long and slow and deep. And a second inhale and exhale. And allowing your attention just to breathe naturally, and allowing your attention to move down to your feet. Experiencing your feet on the floor, or if you're at home and perhaps sitting on a bed, lying down, whatever, experiencing your feet wherever they are, whatever their experience is. The firmness of the floor. The socks or shoes, if you're wearing shoes. You might notice if the experience of the right foot right now is the same as the experience of the left foot. And allowing your attention to move up to your knees. If you're sitting, noticing the bend in the knees. What's the physical sensation there? Does it feel exactly the same in the right knee and the left knee? And noticing too the feeling of clothing, your clothing over your legs, the touch of your clothing. Maybe it feels a little constricted over the knees, maybe not. Noticing if it's the same on both legs. Really observing this. And now we're going to shift our focus a little bit. Observing physical sensations is analogous to the stick that the dog chases. And each object, each sensation is an object of our attention. So we'll change this game right now. And instead of focusing on the sensation of your clothing against your leg, settle for a moment. Just relax. And silently ask, who is experiencing this sensation? Who is the one experiencing this sensation? Maybe the thought arises, I'm the one who's experiencing the sensation, of course. Who is I? Asking yourself, who is I? Who is the one that's thinking this thought? Who is the thinker? Not to worry if this sounds strange, obscure, and not to make this an intellectual effort. Worrying or thinking only adds more thoughts or emotions, more objects. There's no need to do anything at all except relax, settle into the sensation of the clothes on your legs, and gently raise the question. Who is experiencing it? And noticing the response, if there is one, and ask yourself, who is thinking this thought? Letting the answer find you. Letting the answer show itself. It's not something to figure out. Allowing the question to move through and touching the source, the subject. So noticing now, in your experience, what is arising? Maybe there's been an internal conversation going on, some commentary. Maybe a little irritation. As an example, maybe a thought comes up, that's a dumb question. I'm a thinker. I'm a pretty good thinker. Your mind might go into, I've handled some tough problems. It's just a dumb question. So noticing right now, is there a little irritation? What's true right now? And if so, relax. Settle in to the irritation if that's what you're experiencing. accepting it, resting there. Who is feeling irritated? The question is like a key. It can move you through the doorway of irritation to an encounter with the one who is feeling irritated, with the essential one. Or maybe a different thought arises, like in response to who is the thinker. Yeah, I'm the thinker, but I'm not a very good one. This is too hard. And my invitation is for right now, just for these few minutes, settle in and unfold into the feeling of inadequacy, if that's what is arising. Accepting it and resting there. Who is inadequate? The sincerity of your inquiry here is the key. Again, it's like a key to the door of inadequacy. That sense that I'm just not up to it. The door opens, going through inadequacy into the room beyond, and encountering that one, the one who's the source of the feeling of inadequacy. And you do this right now, noticing what's arising for you and inquiring. Who is thinking this? Who is feeling this? Whatever is occurring right now, whatever, don't try to block it or adjust it or improve it or alter it. Don't try to cultivate a wholesome attitude. Just be with whatever is arising right now. And ask, who's experiencing this? instead of turning outward and focusing on objects, thoughts, our feelings or emotions, perceptions. You are moving through them and turning inward. You're not stepping away from anything that is arising. You're inquiring into it and beyond. Your inquiry moves you through. In search of the source, in search of that which is prior to the perception, the thought, the sensation. Touching fundamental nature. And maybe your attention has been gripped by a problem that you've been dealing with, a problem that's been causing you a lot of worry. It's just risen up automatically in your mind, maybe. And perhaps you're anxious or sad, fearful, any one of range of emotions, whatever is present for you for this moment. Don't add further thoughts. Don't immerse yourself in memories and what ifs and what might be's. Instead, simply ask the question, who is thinking this? Who is feeling this? Whatever is present for you this moment or any moment, anxiety, resentment, happiness, anger, fear, whatever is present, doubt, worry, depression, all of them are doorways. not something to be avoided or to be altered. They are doorways. Our almost innate feeling often is to move away from that which is painful. We've learned that often here in our practice. And we've learned to lean in. This practice of returning is another way of leaning in. Everything you experience, it's a doorway. You can move through with the power of your inquiry, your sincere inquiry. Experiencing the source directly. All of them doorways, and through them you can return home.
Light and beauty, heart that longest for the rest, soul that asketh understanding. Only thus can ye be blessed through the vastness of creation. Though your restless heart may roam, God is all you can long for. God is all his earth creatures home.
Thank you, Nancy Elizabeth, for this beautiful song. The title of the song was Spirit Seeking Light and Beauty, and I think Brianna is putting that up on. Thank you, Brianna, by Janet Stewart, and sung by our own Nancy Elizabeth Nimick. Thanks. Really beautiful. And I will thank every one of you for your practice here. I hope it was, if not infuriating, maybe a little bit helpful, maybe show you something that you can do on your own. As I said, formally, informally, during the day. It's important. I hope you will. And I will say that this meditation was inspired by the 19th century Tibetan master Patrul Rinpoche. So it comes from Tibetan tradition, kind of amended to fit our circumstances. So I will say that I have loved sharing with all of you. And we'll offer an invitation that if anyone would like to further explore the deep Dharma, you're welcome at any time. I'm not here as a teacher. This is it. But you're welcome to get in touch with me if you would like. We could do something one-on-one. And I think Brianna is putting thank you, Brianna, my email address up there. You're welcome to get in touch with me. We could talk about it, or get in touch with Brianna later on if you need to, and she could forward it to me. And also she's got a link, putting a link up there. And this is a link to a website. The title of the website is Wisdom of the Masters, but there are a couple of websites on YouTube that have that name. And the link is a website that has been created by Samaneri Jayasara. She is a Buddhist nun in our tradition from Australia. And the website, if you're interested in anything that I've been saying tonight, this website is amazing. She has translated or read in a most beautiful voice portions of talks and books by, I'll say, mystics, contemplatives in this tradition of pure awareness, covering the whole range. There are Buddhist, there are Christian traditions, just hundreds of them. And if you find this interesting, I will suggest take a look at that website. It is amazing. It is an incredible gift. So everybody, we have a few minutes right now before our special program. And I thought perhaps somebody would like to, if there's a question, comment, a little bit of a conversation, let's do it now. Sue, what? Yeah, it's called Wisdom of the Masters. Let's see. Brianna, do you have that to put that in chat? Oh, there we go. Thank you. You can't see it. Okay. So the easiest thing to do is go on YouTube, look under Wisdom of the Masters, then make sure it's Samaneri Jayasara, long name, Pali word, it's her name. It's a nun. There are some others with the same Wisdom of the Masters. And it's just a fabulous website. So inspiring. And I think what you will find and see is that people throughout the ages and across religious spiritual traditions have all been saying basically the same thing. It's not like this is odd. So enjoy. Yeah. So anybody have a comment or question? I hope you're not stunned into silence. Yes, Jackie, hi. Wait, I tell you what, hold on just 1 minute, Jackie. Let me get. Thank you.
I find that when somebody asks me that question, how are you? It does often put me in touch with fundamental nature, but I don't know how to form any words to answer.
That's a good point, because in fact there are no words, and no words don't do it. Mm-hmm. So not to worry about that. And I shared this with somebody the other day, I think it was Mary Louise, when Lama Willa was here. I went up afterwards to thank her for her talk, because she also touched on pure awareness. She used different words. And, I don't know her, but what she said to me, she said, I don't know how to do that. I never know if I'm doing it right. So I said, I understand that. So I think, the important thing is you experience it, you feel it. If you have words, good. They're never going to convey it totally. Yes. Anybody else? Online, anybody else? On Zoom? Oh, you are very welcome. Yeah. Yes, Sharon. Oh, no, you're just handing it back. So that everybody understood this all of this?
Appreciate the idea of who is thinking this thought. Who is it? Really give me a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Whoever I am.
Yeah, thanks, Sue. We're not accustomed to turning around and asking that. And so it's really important for us to recognize it's an option, not only one option. It's so important. It shifts everything. So it's not that the sticks, the objects are unimportant. They're important. They've got their place. But this is important too. Thank you. Yes. Sidna.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Something's echoing. Okay, never mind. I think you said something. I hope I understand it. That when we're sitting here and I'm trying so hard to hear you and listen, trying too hard, and I come up with something that's negative, and you turned it around, that these are doorways. Am I correct?
Yes.
I thank you. That gives me such a sense of hope. And I thank you in every way.
Yeah, everything. Isn't that amazing? I think it's amazing. This is a doorway. Everything is a doorway. It's not like we're having a horrible day and this is a miserable day, period. It's a doorway to move through. Oh, shifts things. Well, friends, everybody is silent. I can't. Okay. Let us have then our special event. And Sharon, are you going to be starting that? I don't know. Oh my goodness. Thank you, thank you. Appreciate that. Nay.
Oh dear. When Jean asked me if I would offer a few words, I said, if it's okay if I cry.
Oh man, we've been through, it's been a long, amazing, wonderful, hard, unforgettable.
It has.
Unforgettable, thank you.
Yes. I'm going to miss you so much, dear sister.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, and that's what I wanted to say. It's just been an amazing, I am crying, aren't I? An amazing time. You know, you've all heard the story about Susan's dinner table, you know, how we would Pat and Susan and I would sit around and drink tea and talk about who and, you know, really deep things and cats and things like that.
Yeah.
Things like that.
It was also simple back then.
It was very simple back then. And anyway, you know, it's been quite a ride. And you mentioned that you've been practicing for 40 years. And it occurs to me that you would easily have been a member of the Young Adult Sangha.
Oh, right.
You know,
In spirit.
you know, but you know, here we are after all this time, and we've been so blessed with the dimension of your practice with, you know, your years in monastic living and your Zen training and non-dual. And, you know, most of you probably don't even realize how unbelievably patient Susan has been with I'm going to cry again, with the rest of us, because, you know, initially we said, no Zen. No, we're not teaching Zen. We're teaching Theravada, and we're not doing Zen. And she would be like, right, okay. And
Wait a minute, I'll just say, as a senior, I've totally forgotten that part.
And then over time, and you know, and so over time we kind of relaxed a little bit, partly because she's so brilliant and wonderful. And, you know, just so many gifts that you've given us. You've been on the board, you've been, you know, on the Teachers Council, you've done these little groups in your living room, you know, you've done online courses, you've just done, anyway.
And what about you, my darling?
Well, we're not talking
Yes.
about me. You know, so it's just been, we're just really going to miss you so much. And every experience is a doorway, and here we are. We wish you just every blessing and goodness. And you always look at your family. Look at all the people who came. Is this cool?
Truly
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, you know, look at look at everybody who's here, and you have family. You know, Susan. You know, many of us know that Susan's only sister recently died, and but here you have all these brothers and sisters, and here we all are. So I'm sorry, but you're not allowed to go very far. Anyway.
Thank you, Sharon. And thank every one of you. It's just been such really an honor, and I have to say, a surprise. You know, who knows? Who knew? And I thank every one of you. So much. I've known some of you for so long, and some of you, you know, more recently. And how wonderful, as you just said, like sisters and brothers. Like, wow. I'm honored. Thanks. Thanks.
Hi again.
Hi.
So Susan Kaufman is going to speak, and I am going to make the offering to you from the board.
Oh my goodness. Hi, Susan.
Well, hi. There's a lot of static. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can
Yes.
you hear me? Okay. Okay, great. So Susan, on behalf of the board, we want to thank you for your service in teaching. You've been so important, as Sharon said. We all know the story of the three of you. I thought it was at your kitchen table, but wherever it was, envisioning an insight meditation community for Charlottesville, and here we are. And we really thank you for, as a board, for guiding us in the Dharma, as we reminding us to bring the Dharma to running this organization, and especially the ways in which you've taught us in terms of the beautiful land acknowledgement that you wrote with integrity and vetting, and it's now part of our website. The gifts that you gave us in reading the vision, mission, and value statement and making sure again that that was aligned with the Dharma. And our DEIJ statement, you were invaluable in helping us to craft that, always looking in that it reflected the Dharma. So we're going to miss you, but we know that you are still going to be one of the guiding mothers of IMCC, and I hope we will see you on Tuesday nights. Mwah.
To you too, Susan. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, I'm here.
Susan didn't say this, but this is the offering that Susan Kaufman had collected of love notes
Oh my goodness.
for Susan, from Susan to Susan.
Thank you.
And then there's an extra one there. And thank
Thank
you very
you.
much. I just want to add, my experience of you has been how generous you are, Susan, and I just wanted to add that. So Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. So thank you. Oh, whoa, yes.
It's not going up. Are you able to hear us? Okay. Well, I can do my guitar solo again. Hold on, there's a. There we go. All right, we all know that Susan talks about the Dharma is love, and we wanted to share a little love with her tonight before we finish. And Barbara Martin is here to join us in sharing this song, and we hope that you will join in. The first few verses are to share our love with Susan, and we'll ask you to join in as you learn the song, and then we'll do a few verses to share this love with all of us and with this world. May we be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be happy. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be happy. One more time. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be happy. And this next verse will be for all of us. May we be happy. And the whole world. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be happy. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be happy. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be happy. Love to you, thank you. It's beautiful. Hugs, wait a minute, wait. Hugs. Hi, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you all, friends. There's some beautiful cookies and sweets here. So in case, is there something else? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. See you too.